Well, I was on the expert advisory group, which really looked at the outcomes. I wasn't involved in the shaping of the original early learning goals, but I was on the group which looked particularly at the outcomes from the pilot. And I was involved in discussions about the implications of that and what the findings were and how that might shape the questions for the consultation, which, as you say, has now finished. So we're at a point now, at this point in time, the consultation just finished. I think we'll wait to see what the response from DFE is, and whether it will be as it was in the consultation and the pilot, or whether or not those will be modified in any way. And obviously, we're still waiting for that to happen. But again, I think this goes back to something I said earlier. Much of this, I think, is dependent on how teachers and practitioners are going to interpret things and how they're going to make it work in terms of their own pedagogy. Although the ELGs aren't a curriculum in itself, they are a set of outcomes from which a curriculum can be derived. And I think how you interpret and understand those is very important, because obviously that will shape your practice. So I know that there is some concern in the sector about the removal of shape, space and measure as an early learning goal. However, it is still in the educational programmes. Personally, I think it should still be an early learning goal, but that's the decision the DFE will take. I also know there are certainly have been some debates around the early learning goal for self-regulation. I mean, I have to say, having an early learning goal for self-regulation is, I think, a huge step forward, and it truly recognises the importance of that as critical to children's learning and development. I think that's important to recognise. I think some of the wording in some of the statements is open to interpretation, but that's true of all the early learning goals. And I think it'd be interesting to see what the exemplification, because these will need to be assessed, because the early learning goals are also the criteria for the EYFS profile. So at some point we will have exemplification which will demonstrate what that looks like. Now hopefully that will certainly clarify the nature of what that looks like, and what that should look like in practice. So I think we're still at a wait and see. The consultation, I don't know how many people will responded to it. I'm sure DFE will be processing those and see where the land lies. So again, we go back to what I said earlier, that will be the prescribed curriculum or the prescribed set of outcomes, and then there will be the actual one that people use, and that will be down to interpretation. It will be down to how teachers and practitioners work with that to make it real and meaningful and progressive for the children they work with. And certainly in my career as a nursery reception year one teacher for many years, I had many different iterations of external curriculum. In each of those situations you approach that as a reflective, informed professional, and you see how your practice shapes around it and how it shapes around your practice. And again, it goes back to Ofsted and the Ofsted statement of being able to explain and talk about why you do what you do. And I think that's still very much the case.